am Undead Matt, and welcome to my macabre movie mania. Tonight, I'm taking the show into someplace different. Someplace unnerving and weird. The daylight! As I bring you the 1973 classic, The Wicker Man. The idea for Wicker Man first came about when the late, great Christopher Lee wanted to get away from the monsters that he played in the Hammer horror movies. Wanted to do something different, more interesting, to stretch out his acting chops. So he contacted his writer friend, Anthony Schaefer, to start developing a movie. Mr. Schaefer just recently read the book, Ritual, which gave him the idea to, let's make that a movie. So they bought the rights to Ritual and began to turn it into a movie. But Mr. Schaefer started finding it was a little too paranormal, a little too out there, where he wanted to make a grounded, realistic, visceral movie. They ended up not really adapting the book, but instead using ideas from the book to create their own movie. He called up his friend Robin Hardy to direct, and in 1973 we get the classic, The Wicker Man.
Oh God! Oh Jesus Christ! Oh my God!
The story of The Wicker Man begins with Sergeant Neil Howie flying to the island off the coast of Scotland known as Summer's Isle. See, he received a letter reporting a missing girl. The letter, although, was anonymous. Once he reaches the island, he starts asking the locals about this missing girl, but nobody seems to recognize her.
Have our own particularities. You know her. Her name is Rowan Morrison. The photo was in this letter posted here on Summer Isle.
No, I've never seen her before.
Sergeant Howie has an uneasy feeling about the island, so he decides to stick around and see what he can find out. And that's where we're introduced to our colorful locals, who like to sing many songs.
This is my daughter, Willow.
Good evening.
Show the sergeant to his room, would you?
Much has been said of the strumpets of yore,
Of wenches and bawdy house queens by the score, but I sing of the baggage that we all adore. The landlord's daughter.
Why does anyone sing a song like that about me when I enter the room? Sergeant Howie begins to start looking around the island for clues of the girl, and doesn't turn up much until he reaches the schoolhouse. There, he figures out what is wrong with this island. It's filled with pagans!
The phallic symbol. That is correct. It is the image of the penis, which is venerated in religions such as ours, as symbolizing the generative force in nature.
See, Sergeant Howie is a very devout Christian, and he's very unnerved by an entire island full of pagans following the sun god. He then also finds out that the girl does exist, but that she died in a mysterious way. Unable to let that sit with him, he decides to exhume her body and find out more about how she died. As you can see, something is very off about this entire mystery. He finds out about an upcoming festival called the May Day Festival. And in ancient pagan times, they would celebrate the gods, hoping to appease their favor for a favorable bounty when they harvest. But in dire years, sometimes they would sacrifice someone to appease their god.
But in bad years, when the harvest had been poor, the sacrifice was a human being.
Rowan's not dead.
Sometimes the victim would be drowned in the sea or burnt to death in a huge sacrificial bonfire.
Thinking that the girl is alive but may be held captive for this ritual sacrifice, Sergeant Howie infiltrates the May Day parade. He is soon proven to be right, that the girl is part of the sacrifice, and he tries to save her.
What's the matter, Mr. McGregor?
Now, don't be frightened. I'm a police officer. I've come to try and get you away.
Hurry, mister, please. I don't like it here. They're coming. You know what they're going to do?
Oh, I know what they're going to do. Come on, hurry.
Unfortunately, he finds out that she was never meant to be the sacrifice. He was the sacrifice.
Animals are fine, but their acceptability is limited. A little child is even better, but not nearly as effective as the right kind of adult.
What do you mean? Right kind of adult?
Hear ye the words of the Lord! Awake, ye heathens, and howl! It is the Lord who hath laid waste your orchards! It is he who
Reverence
hath made
the
them bare.
sacrifice.
The Wicker Man got very favorable reviews from many film festivals and anyone who saw it. Unfortunately, due to the production company's financial constraints at the time, it got a very limited release and was not distributed widely. So then it fell into relative obscurity. Years later, many people started digging up this film and realizing how amazing it truly is. Many people calling it the Citizen Kane of horror. And even Empire magazine listing it as number 485 of the 500 best movies of all time. And I would mostly agree with that. Is it a fantastic representation of a very small subgenre of horror called daylight horror? Horror movies that take place during the day, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and most recently, Midsummer. The kind of movie that takes away the relative safety that we feel in the daylight and doesn't rely on darkness or jump scares to scare you out of your wits. And this movie doesn't really have a whole lot of scares at all. It's more of a mystery that has a horror twist at the end, garnering the debate of, is this truly horror? Depending on your definition. Well, yes, it is horror. Come on. It is a horror movie. But most importantly, this movie is a very interesting take on religion in modern society. Maybe today not seen as crazy, but a movie that showed pagans in a kind of normal light is something that you wouldn't have seen a lot of at the time. It's interesting to see the Christian Sergeant Howie being the raving lunatic throughout this town.
Everywhere I go on this island, it seems to me I find degeneracy. There is brawling in bars, there is indecency in public places, and there is corruption of the young, and now I see it all stems from here. It stems from the filth taught here in this very schoolroom. If you don't cooperate with me here and now, you may well find yourself inside a police cell on the mainland tonight. Have I made myself quite clear?
Oh, what is all this? I mean, you've got fake biology, fake religion. Sir, have these children never heard of Jesus?
Me even
Lord Summerisle, where is Rowan Morrison?
Where all these pagans are nice, calm, relative people. Truly showing which religion is the true religion. You can also see a bit of the subversion of the villain, as again, Sergeant Howie is the crazy one running about the town, where Lord Summerisle, played by the great Christopher Lee, is very calm and deposed.
And I will demand a full inquiry takes place into the affairs of this heathen island.
You must, of course, do as you see fit, Sergeant. Perhaps it's just as well that you won't be here tomorrow to be offended by the sight of our May Day celebrations here.
So who is the true villain? I mean, the pagans did end up killing him at the end, so they're probably the villain. But it's interesting to think otherwise. A screenplay was written for a sequel to The Wicker Man called The Loathsome Lambton Worm, which would have seen Sergeant Howie survive and continue to fight against Lord Summer Isle. This one would have had a lot more special effects and be a lot more supernatural than the grounded original Wicker Man. But nobody really liked this idea, including the director, Robin Hardy, so this movie was never made. So the Wicker Man legacy lay dormant for many years. Yes, you know what's coming next. In 2006, an insane remake starring Nicolas Cage came out, which gave us great moments like...
Yes, I think it's... yeah.
How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
And...
Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah! Oh, my eyes! My eyes! Ah!
And of course, Nick Cage dressed as a bear punching women.
What is it? What's wrong, sister?
This movie would garner one of the reputations of so bad it's good, and is loved for the insanity of Nick Cage. But everyone involved with the original Wicker Man has distanced themselves from this remake. A spiritual sequel to The Wicker Man came out in 2011 called The Wicker Tree that was directed by Robin Hardy and had a cameo by Christopher Lee. Although not directly connected to the original Wicker Man, it carried a lot of the same themes and a lot of the same ideas. Up until Robin Hardy's death in 2016, he was working on another screenplay called The Wrath of the Gods, many thinking that this would have been the third in the Wicker Man trilogy. Unfortunately, this will never see the light of day. In the end, The Wicker Man is a great atmospheric thriller that doesn't revolve around scares or darkness or blood and gore to creep you out, but instead relies on its atmosphere and its unsettling nature to freak you out. It has a very low body count, only one, but still holds up as an amazing horror movie that keeps you on its edge. So if you want to see a creepy, bright, unsettling movie, check out The Wicker Man. It is definitely one of the great underappreciated movies of our time. Now, if you excuse me, I've been invited to a festival about honey, and we'll see what that's all about. No, not the bees! Not the bees! No, not the bees! Ah!
Thanks for joining me on another episode of Macabre Movie Mania. What do you think of The Wicker Man? Is it an undiscovered gem or was it rightfully forgotten? Let me know what you think in those comments below. Hit that thumbs up, it'd be very helpful, and also if you could share this video with anyone who's only seen the remake because they should check out the original. And remember, I vote on my next episodes of Macabre Movie Mania, so make sure you follow me on Twitter at wizard_Matt to get your voice heard. And if you're not too busy, check out one of these two other videos. They are pretty awesome if I do say so myself. Thank you for joining me.